When I think resilience, Diane, the image that comes to mind looks a lot like Tanya Unkovich. In fact, she's been through some difficult things, but she always brings a positive perspective and is such an encouragement to other people going through tough times. Tanya, kia ora, good afternoon.
Kia ora, good afternoon. How are you both?
Yeah, doing well. Now, I love the whole byline of this week's Mental Health Awareness Week, and that is this whole idea of connection, reconnection with others and also with ourselves.
Very much so. We often forget to reconnect with ourselves, and when we have mental health issues, it's often that loss of connection with self that is the worst. That's what leads us to losing hope.
When things go wrong in our life, I suppose there's never a vacuum. We tend to fill our lives, if we've got things that are broken or things that are empty, we tend to fill them up anyway, but not necessarily always with positive things. And for some people, that's their coping strategies. But actually, as we're coming through this season, perhaps time to evaluate what have our coping strategies been, and which ones do we need to let go of because they're not actually that good for us?
And this is a good time to actually get pen and paper out and start doing some journaling. And journal, okay, what times do I not feel good? What am I doing during those times? Oh, I'm noticing it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon when I'm starting to open the wine bottle.
Yeah.
So write all of these things down. When are the times that I feel really good? Oh, it's when I'm with this person. It's when I'm in nature. So create a balance sheet and then go, actually, I need to do a little less of this and a lot more of this.
I mean, it's been an interesting few years, and I know that, we've talked through some of the ways that COVID has affected us in terms of connection and loneliness. It's time now, though, for people to reconnect, and I think that's what Mental Health Awareness Week is all about. Actually, hey, we've had this time where we've needed to disconnect for a little bit, but actually it's time to sort of get yourself back into the game as such.
Yeah, and break the pattern that you've fallen into because, we fall into a pattern of being isolated. We fall into a pattern of saying, no, I won't go out. We fall into a pattern of not taking care of ourselves. So the way to break a pattern is to create a new pattern, a healthier one, and do it over and over and over again. You really must decide that you want to get out of that brown puddle of mud, which sometimes feels comfortable, but long term it's not good for you. Make the decision to live again, step out of the puddle, and do what makes you happy. Do what brings you joy.
I'm just thinking a puddle of mud probably would make me happy, but I'm kind of mixing the metaphors here a little bit. The schoolboy and me kicking back in there. Hey, I suppose one of the things that is true is, okay, we've been in restricted environments and we haven't been allowed to do certain things, but it's kind of like the prison doors now open. And yet we're choosing to stay in our cells. We're choosing to stay in that space that has become too comfortable to us. We've got the freedom. We're just not stepping into that freedom. What would you say to somebody who finds themselves in that space, that metaphor really rings true? They've got the freedom now. They just don't know if they've got the inclination to step out of that space.
Well, you've done it before. Why not do it again? And also, you're wasting so much of your precious life. It really is about exactly what Nike says. You just have to do it.
Yeah.
If there is a fear then you can allow that fear to hold you back. You can keep feeding that fear. However, if you've got faith, I'm going to encourage you to choose faith over fear. And this is a wonderful opportunity now for you to grow. So many people have lost so much confidence in themselves. Now, if you have to buddy up with someone to do it, then do it. It's about rebuilding that certainty in yourself. I mean, I know that we've been given certainty. Hey, it's okay, go out now and all that. But you've got to get that certainty within yourself and feel safe out there in the world again. It has to come from within and from God.
I think it's about doing that next right thing, isn't it? And, it might just be, hey, I'm going to phone someone that I haven't, spoken to for a while. And then, in the phone call, I might say, hey, let's catch up for a coffee or something like that. I mean, these are all very good steps. And I think the reason why Mental Health Awareness Week is so much centered on this idea of reconnection is that it's actually good for us, right? Maybe we've lost that idea that, being with others is good for us. But, they're saying for your mental health, for your well-being and the well-being of others, it's time to reconnect.
Yeah. And also, the more we can get out of our own world and think about ourselves and instead think of how can I serve another human being, the better we will feel about ourselves.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to do it for you, do it for someone else.
Yeah.
And make them the reason why. If you've got children, go, I don't want my kiddies to grow up feeling scared and fearful. I want them to be adventurous and live passionately and fearlessly. So I've got to be an example for them as well. So if you don't want to do it for you, do it for someone else first. And that is such a great way to step out of your own fear. Be an example and shine for others.
I'm not sure if this metaphor holds now in a digital age, but I remember a saying, somebody says, if you live in the dark, you develop your negatives. And
that's great.
And actually, if we've been stuck in a place for a certain period of time, we may have taken on some beliefs, some lies about ourselves that have in some ways restricted our identity. Talk to some of that, Tanya.
Oh, yes. And look, two of the great lies that we somehow feed ourselves, whether it comes from someone else, it doesn't matter where it comes from. Number one, that I'm not lovable. And number two, that I'm just not enough. And those are two of the greatest lies. It's just a voice in your head sometimes that gets on replay. And it's about pulling out that vinyl, getting that tape and ripping it up. And, just like a record player, the old vinyl record players, just get a pen and scratch that tune.
Gosh.
You don't want that playing anymore in your head because it is a lie. And create new beliefs. I am worthy, I am enough. And I always say to my clients who really are believers, I say, look, if you want evidence, you just pick up the Bible and you'll get it from there.
Now, Tanya, I love something that you're saying is your favourite quote from this week, and I wonder if you could share it with us.
Well, there were a couple, actually.
Yeah.
Number one is Pio Padre quote, and it's don't spend your energies on things that generate worry, anxiety, and anguish. Only one thing is necessary. Lift up your spirit and love God.
Gosh, that's good.
I really like that one. And the other one I just loved, I heard it today, is pray for it, then prepare for it. So if you want freedom from any fear or negativity or negative stories that are in your head about what you believe about yourself, then ask God to remove it and then be ready for him to remove it, because I know he will if you are ready and willing to let it go.
Really, really important conversation today, Tanya. And I think, for many people, they're starting to make those tentative steps. And for many of us, just hearing, actually, this is really important stuff. Do that next thing and get on board reconnecting with others. Thanks again for being a part of the show and sharing your wisdom.
You are so welcome.